Hello everyone and welcome to the latest issue look at Retro Gamer magazine. I'm Darran Jones.
And I'm Nick Thorpe.
And we're going to be looking at, if you want to show them Nick, the our latest issue, Arcade Perfect. So we're basically celebrating 25 years of the Neo Geo. Not a lot of people owned one because, well, they were insanely expensive, weren't they, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're still insanely expensive now. I think my best chance at getting one was shortly after I graduated. It was £100 with Samurai Showdown. Completely broke because I just finished uni, didn't have a job, and I'm probably never going to get a chance that good again.
I actually picked one up when I was working at Games TM, I think, and yeah, always wanted one. They were like 500 quid when they came out, insanely expensive. And I bought one and I didn't do my research, so it was like, oh, hang on a minute, £1,000 for Metal Slug, £400 for Garou, and as much as I loved it, I had to get rid of it because as much as I love video games, no video game is worth £1,000 unless it's maybe Panzer Dragoon Saga. But I digress. Moving on, we've got a cool over the head camera this time, so you can actually see what I'm looking at, like my old videos I used to do. So we'll briefly talk about this. Roll Cage Resurrected. I'd imagine this is more your era.
Yeah, I mean this is a game that I played a fair amount of. I've actually just been playing over it again. The interesting thing is they went for Kickstarter since we've gone to press. The Kickstarter campaign has ended and they've gone for an early access PayPal campaign instead.
It hadn't even reached a third of its target, had it?
No,
so,
that's right.
Which is well, it's disappointing, but that's the way these things happen sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a game that was sort of very good looking, and I think it looked perhaps a bit too professional for people to want to throw money at it.
And this is cool. Thinking of talking about things that we're going to throw money at. Capcom have announced Resident Evil 2 and that they're doing a remake. I'm assuming it's going to be like the first one for the GameCube.
I would think so. They haven't really announced anything yet. They literally announced it as soon as it was greenlit. So all that we know is it's Resident Evil 2. It's being remade, and there was a lovely T-shirt that said "We do it."
Quickly moving on, Maya Pixel Scale. This is somebody that you got in touch with.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
She just does amazing artwork, doesn't she?
Yeah, all sorts of things: clothing, jewelry, painting, copper etchings. It's all fantastic stuff, and it's not the usual Mario, Zelda, etc. We've got a Sunset Riders hoodie here. We've got Monkey Island etchings. It's great stuff.
She made that amazing Outrun tie as well.
Yes, she did.
Oh, I was so gutted. I went on there and it was sold out. It looked absolutely amazing. This is, I mean, talking about amazing, this is pretty good. I mean, look at that Nintendo collection.
It's absurd. Just having Donkey Kong cabinets and things. It's the stuff of dreams, really, isn't it?
And everything's in immaculate condition as well. I mean, one thing we are looking for, guys, is that if you have got your own collection and you want to show it off, just let us know via email. Just use the normal Retro Gamer email address, and we'll take a look at your images and that, and look at getting you in the magazine. So moving on, so we got back to the 90s direct side, which, if I'm right in thinking, is an insanely expensive 32X game.
Oh yes, very expensive indeed.
So moving on to insanely expensive, the Neo Geo, and I mean, you know, some people might be saying, you know, why have you given it the cover when it's such like a limited machine? What you have to remember is that back in like the late 80s and 90s, arcade conversions were everywhere, and most of them weren't very good. So when all of a sudden you had this machine which came along, and the graphics were perfect because it was the arcade game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously the downside to that was that basically there was a high cost involved, wasn't there?
Yeah, because just the amount of memory needed to deliver that arcade perfect experience was huge. The cartridges were very, very expensive to make.
So were they around 200 plus, or?
Yeah, I think by about the mid-90s they'd fallen to 100 for the very cheapest ones. But that's, you know, they were certainly towards the end of their life there were 300 or so.
So with the actual feature, one of the things we wanted to do is, because we have covered the Neo Geo all the way back in issue 70, we went onto the actual forums, didn't we? And we just said, you know, if you could read any Neo Geo feature, what would you like to see? And the box outs are basically what people were asking for. So again, we do appreciate reader feedback. So if you keep on going over to the forum or to our Facebook pages, you will always find the odd feature requests and that, and you can basically take part in it. This is this was quite a cool idea, wasn't it? Because
Yeah.
again, while the Neo Geo is prohibitively expensive, that doesn't mean that you can't play certain games on certain systems. So we thought it was a good idea to basically
Show you how you can have the Neo Geo experience without spending quite so much money.
Did you work out as well how much all this spread would cost if you had the original games?
Yeah, it's actually here on the thing. I've worked out the price for each of the equivalent Neo Geo price for each of the things represented. So like the Neo Geo X, if you bought all the games,
£3,000.
£3,000.
Or you can buy Neo Geo X for £120. And obviously, it's not as good as a real thing. We have to state that. But if you want a cheap alternative, that's the way to do it. Now this is an interesting one because we've been trying to get John Van Ryzen into the mag since I started on the mag, and he just, for whatever reasons, he's always been busy, or he's just not wanted to talk. So it's really gratifying to finally get him in there, and he's got some really good stuff to say about H.E.R.O, which is an amazing Atari 2600 game. I'm assuming you've played it.
Yeah. It's I have a lot of the Activision stuff that I inherited from my dad, so. That's one of them.
So let's have a look at this one, Nick. Because this was actually going to be one of our cover options, and we were kind of sitting on it for a while, and we had the structure where it was similar to the power up ones we did, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
And in the end, I think we just wanted to do something a little bit different. I think the good thing with retro gamer is that you can every now and then you can afford to be a little bit more experimental, and that's what we went going with. So it's still a big feature. So as you can see, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of interview. What was your favourite interview out of all the ones we got, Nick?
My personal favourite was the Alex Trows one, simply because the Persuadertron's such a different weapon. It's really interesting to find out how it came about.
And people like Alex are always they're always good for they love to talk about their products. They're really proud of them, and sometimes as well you just hear them talking, and then you go back to the game, and it just gives you a better appreciation, doesn't it, for what they were actually trying to do at the time. Now this is an interesting game. This is one of Imagine Software's earliest games, and I don't know if you played it, but it's absolutely ridiculously addictive. Basically, all you're doing is you're this little guy, and the platforms are going along, and every now and then there'll be a gap, and you just have to try and get to the top of the screen. And initially it's okay, but as the game gets, as you can see here, you've got more and more guys appearing, and it just becomes really, really tough. So again, it's not necessarily a hugely well-known game, but it's got a really interesting story about it. And one of the things, for example, is that the guy who was making it, the graphics look quite basic for the time, and it turns out that they were made by his 10-year-old son.
Yeah,
which is just lovely, basically. So Audiogenic. Now, again, this is a company that I'm not really too hot on. Well, I am now because I've obviously read the feature. But one of the things that I like about Retro Gamer, from my own personal view as an actual reader, is I like obviously being wrapped in a nice nostalgia blanket of like, oh yeah, I used to love that game, let's read about it. But I love finding out about stuff I didn't find.
Yeah, for sure. Like I'm looking at the Audiogenic spread, and I've played Krusty's Super Fun House.
I never even realised it was by them.
I didn't realise it was by them, so this is one of the features that I'm interested in going over, simply because I want to know more about the company that made that game.
I think one of the reasons why I personally didn't really follow them back in the day was they did do a lot of sports stuff, which I wasn't really too impressed with. But it's really cool. Now I remember this though. This is Enduro Racer on the Master System, and again it was interesting because it just basically takes a completely different perspective from the arcade original, doesn't it? So do you think that comes down to they're just trying to make a game which will benefit the Master System?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in the arcade, obviously, you could put it there if you didn't already have Hang On, whereas with the Master System, you had Hang On. That kind of game was already established on the Master System. It's just
a really good point,
different kind of way. I mean, it's a bit more competitive with something like Excite Bike in terms of the way it actually operates.
Okay, so moving on, we've got the first of one of our later gen features, as we like to call them, and this is the History of Broken Sword. Really popular game back in the day. They've recently just released Broken Sword 5 on Xbox One and PS4, so if you've not played it, I recommend checking it out because it is good fun. This is one of the little running jokes we have
The world
magazine,
map,
isn't it?
yeah.
Because Johnny Wells, our designer, basically made this world map a very, 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 very long time ago, and we always like to try and look at ways of how we can get it back into every issue. So we've been a bit slack. If you've looked at the last couple of issues, you see we've not used it. But when was the last time it was? Your
I think
Twisted
this is
Metal,
Twisted
was it?
Metal, yeah.
So whenever you see that world map, just spare a thought for Johnny Wells because he put it together and he did a damn good job with it. Nintendo 64 controller. They were just a sink, weren't they? I mean, even trying to clean it up, and you still used to get this. Was it like sweat salt or
awful sort of grime in there? I mean,
who designed that? I mean, you'd have to get like a paperclip or something, and you're just trying to scoop it out.
I actually took mine apart to repair the analog stick, and the thing is, they grind into dust from the friction. It's awful. It made a mess of my room.
Metal Gear Solid, then. This is a good game, isn't it?
This is fantastic. This is a game that I brought home. I rented it from the local video shop, and my mum was enthralled, just because you had Solid Snake outside in the cold and you could see his breath. Games weren't doing that level of detail back in 98, 99. Then, of course, because I'd rented it from the video shop, when I needed to look at the back of the CD case to get the codec number,
of course, yeah, it's on the back, isn't it?
I had to run back to the video shop to get it. But yeah, this is a good feature. It's Steve Holmes has done this one, and he's a massive Metal Gear fan, knows it inside out.
If you ever meet Steve Holmes and you want to get a rise out of him, just tease him about Metal Gear because he'll succumb every time. But he has he knows the game inside out, doesn't he? So you've got all the bosses, you've got all the where Metal Gear has originated in terms of. Its DNA, all the weapons and items that you can use in it, and obviously a look at the later games to tie in with the new one coming out. And this is our big showcase feature, which we've actually got an accompanying video, which should hopefully be up by the time you see this. And this is Kem and Tom. So again, I'm not a huge fan of sports games.
Yeah.
But there's something oddly compelling about Football Manager because it originated as a board game, didn't it?
Yeah. It's oddly compelling, even with the ZX81, where you don't have the graphical highlights.
No, you had the little stickmen, didn't you, on the Spectrum version?
You had the little stickmen on the Spectrum version, but on the ZX81, you just had lines of text whenever a goal was scored. And I remember back when I was doing the top 25 ZX81 games, just getting enthralled watching Swindon take my team apart.
And yeah, this feature is basically. It doesn't talk too much about Football Manager because we're saving that for an issue or two time because we wanted to give it the space it deserved. But it talks about its career in general, doesn't it? It talks about the formula of addictive games, and there's some great anecdotes in there, but they're best to be saved for either the actual issue or the actual video that we've got. And this Rare Replay, I genuinely think that this is the best game which you can get on Xbox One. You don't need Halo Master Chief Collection, you don't need Gears of War, you don't need Forza, you just need this. It's got 30 games, the vast majority of them are really good. Yeah. What do you think in terms of the emulation and stuff on it?
It's all very, very good. I mean, even with the newer stuff, with the 360 stuff, you get some very slight frame rate drops on things, but they're still working on that. It's very well emulated. They've put together some really cool challenges.
It's no money, isn't it? They're practically giving it to you. You can buy it for around 15 quid. 30 games, 15 quid. If you've got an Xbox One, you need it, don't you?
We worked it out. If you wanted to get all of the 360 games, wander into CEX or somewhere, you would pay more than you would pay for Rare Replays.
Utterly insane. And then really, that's the issue. So just looking at next month, we've got Mario's Magical Moments to basically celebrate the fact that the Super Mario franchise is 30 years old. We've got a making of Tomb Raider, Ultimate Guide on Mortal Kombat 2.
That's right.
Anything else? No, we just got the one Ultimate Guide this issue, haven't we?
That's right.
We got a few horror-themed things like Splatterhouse feature.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, Friday the 13th. Oh, and the BBC Micro feature that we've been promising for the last couple of months. It's definitely going to be in this issue. Before we go, if you enjoyed what you're watching, don't forget to comment and subscribe. We'd also obviously like to know of any other video ideas that you'd like to see from us. So again, please use the comments so that we can basically act on it. And last of all, if you want to look at the new video now of Kevin Toms, immediately click on Nick's face now. You will not regret it. I'm the editor, Darran Jones.
I'm Nick Thorpe.
And we'll see you very soon, guys. Take care.